Test. Oh my God. Here. Test. Test, test. I'm just making sure my mic is not acting annoying to everyone. Okay. I was getting a tinny echo on my end. I think I fixed it. In the chat, it looks like, yeah.
On a couple things that hopefully you guys would listen to, um, since this is one of our only options to get our voices out there. There's a few routes that are causing big problems for us. So Route 13, outbound, you make a right onto Kitski and then an immediate left onto Linden. In order to make this turn, you have to make the turn and cut all the way across 3 lanes of traffic. And it's an illegal turn for one, and it's also very dangerous. Um, so that's the first one. And the second one is RTC a couple years back that they were going to put in a 4-way stop, and nothing's ever been done. And so that there's 2 bus stops that are served by the 4, that if the 4 just went straight up 7th Street instead of it, currently it comes up 7th, left on McCarran, right on Mayan, right on Sierra Highlands. It used to just go straight up 7th, which was safe. There's 2 bus stops along there that are also served by the Route 11. So if they yeah, those were the 2.
Questions regarding the stop sign placement, so I can involve them as well. So
yeah, I mean, if they can't do a 4-way stop there, just have it go back up 7th Street like it used to do. We're not, the other bus stops are being serviced by the Route 11, so it wouldn't be removing bus stops. They would just continue to be served by the other route.
got it.
And that's a big safety concern. I mean, every person who drives a Route 4 knows about that turn and how dangerous it is.
Got it. Thanks for those
Thank
comments.
you. Thank you.
Then Ryan, I'll pass it back to you. Sorry for the interruption.
No, not at all. Not an interruption. Definitely a good discussion on safe routes for the bus. Let's see. Do we know which meeting minutes was that? Were those comments addressed to? Was that the June, July, or August meeting?
I believe those are just part of the general comment.
Oh, I see. I understand. Yeah. Okay. All right. In that case, is there any further public comment? Does anybody have anything else? Okay. So now we'll go to approve the June 4th, July 9th, and August 6th committee meeting minutes. I'll need a motion and a second on this for each individual item. So let's start with the June 4th.
This is Suting. I make a motion to approve the June 4th minutes.
Thank you, Suting. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Okay, so the June 4th, 2025 meeting minutes were approved. Now let's go to the July 9th meeting minutes. Anybody?
Let's do the vote on those as well.
On both of them?
I think we'll have to go through and do the all in favor and all opposed for each item. And actually,
right.
I'll take that to give a little bit of context on why so many minutes are up for approval here. It's just because we haven't had a quorum in the past couple months, which, you know, with folks traveling is understandable. So yeah, we've just kind of accumulated a backlog of minutes for approval here.
All right. So going back to the June 4th meeting minutes, all opposed, say yay. Sorry, I mean, all in favor, say yay. Sorry, I'm tired. Had a long week.
Yay to the nay.
Yay to approving.
All right, all opposed, say nay, please. Okay. June 4th motion passes. And then July 9th meeting minutes, we have a motion and a second.
Kelly, or I make a motion to second the meeting minutes.
Thank you.
This is Panah. I don't know if Kelly was motioning or seconding, but I'll do the other.
Okay, the second then. Okay, great. And then all in favor of this motion, say yay.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Moving on to August 6th, 2025. We have a motion or a second?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Do you have a second?
Or a motion to second.
Okay, thank you so much. And then all in favor, yay.
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 Aye.
Yay.
All opposed? All right, great. So now we get to move on to the main bulk of our meeting, number 5, information and discussion items. So the purpose, there's no action here, but the purpose of the committee is to provide information, advice, and recommendations regarding certain regional planning documents, proposed major transit service changes, and proposed transit fare policy changes as part of RTC's public participation plan. We're also supposed to inform and advise on benches, shelters, and transit stops in accordance with Assembly Bill 214 from 2023. RTC staff selects and presents items that are intended to further that purpose. Following a presentation by RTC staff, committee members will have the opportunity to ask questions, discuss, and provide feedback pertaining to the item. So today we have 3 items. Number 1, we're going to provide information, advice, and recommendations regarding the draft public participation plan. Do we have a presentation on that today?
Yes, I'll be presenting on that, Vanessa Lacer, and let me just pull it up for you.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, so again, Vanessa Lacer, Planning Director for RTC, and I will be overviewing our Public Participation Plan 2025 update. So first, I'll give you some background on the plan. What is it? Why do we do it? I'll overview the proposed updates and also the proposed carryovers. Then I'll outline the public comment opportunity, how to provide public comment and when, and then give you some next steps for plan approval. So first, a little bit of background on this plan. As you're aware, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, RTC, is also the metropolitan planning organization for the region. And in our role as the metropolitan planning organization, we must comply with a number of federal requirements. And one of those requirements is to develop and adopt a public participation plan. So we have a current one that was approved in 2022. But as I mentioned, we're required to have this plan. We're also further required to periodically review the plan, make sure that it's still effective, make sure the procedures and strategies within the plan are still appropriate, so that we can ensure a full and open participation process. So we've just done such a review of our 2022 plan and found some areas where we felt we could improve and make some modifications. And so this 2025 public participation plan is an update, and once approved, will replace the current plan, which was adopted in 2022. So what are our proposed updates? What would be changing? Generally, not much. We are proposing some minor changes, and I've outlined here 4 key changes that I wanted to share with you today. The draft plan is also in your packet, so you certainly can take a look at that. But generally speaking, we have first just reorganized the content and made some minor kind of wordsmithing text edits for just better clarity and flow of the document, just better readability, better organized content. Second, we've expanded the discussion of RTC compliance with federal law. So within the regulation that means we must create the plan, there are a number of other things that we should have in the plan, including 10 actions that are prescribed. And so while we did have some discussion of how we fulfill those actions in our current plan, we've expanded upon that discussion in this plan. So you'll see we list out the 10 actions and then describe the policies and activities that we take or we take at RTC in order to comply with those actions. We've also enhanced the plan-specific requirements and added a table, again, to that goal of kind of better readability and organization. Each plan has its own requirements for public participation. So we've just, again, put some more meat on the bones there and added all that in a table. And finally, we updated our website accessibility standards. That is something that has changed since 2022. And also at RTC, we are in the process to meet the new accessibility standards, and we wanted to make sure that our public participation plan reflected that as well. So our proposed carryover, so what is not changing? First, the 9 RTC public participation policies that were proposed or were approved in the 22 plan would be staying the same. We did review them and found that they were still relevant and appropriate, and so they will be moving forward in this 2025 update. The outreach strategies are staying the same. So again, we reviewed them to see if they needed any tweaks or changes and found that they were all still appropriate. So they will remain the same. We've organized them a little bit differently, but they're all still there. And then finally, the committee roles and responsibilities are staying the same. As in 22, our CMAC and TAC are our core advisory committees for the planning department, and the roles of those committees are to assist planning staff by reviewing and providing feedback on planning items so that we can better inform our board. And so that will remain the same in the 25 update. We are offering a public comment opportunity. Again, the draft plan is in your packet. It can also be accessed at rtcwashoe.com. Public comments can be submitted by email or phone, or during public comment periods for our CMAC, TAC, and our RTC board meetings as well. So you can email vlaser@rtcwashoe.com, or you can call 775-335-1901 to leave a public comment. And that comment period started on August 18th. It is the duration is 45 days, and it will close on October 1st. So the next steps with this plan development, first, we this week are presenting the draft and getting any feedback you have at this time to CMAC and TAC advisory committees. We are then obviously still collecting comments, so we'll continue to do that through October 1st. And I wanted to note here that all comments received through these avenues are provided to the RTC board. That is our standard practice. And then when they're provided to the board as part of that board packet, they become public. So they become a public document as well. And then finally, we will be seeking approval for the 2025 public participation plan update at the October 17th RTC board meeting. And I am happy to answer any questions if you have some. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Vanessa. Does anybody have any comments on this? And I think I see you, your hand being raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Ryan. I did look through the document briefly, and I understand it's a high-level document, so it's not going to get into the nitty-gritty for everything. Of course, all the goals and policies and everything are great, but in my experience, I've just wondered if, in terms of practical implementation, RTC can make use of other public agencies and public resources, such as libraries, social media, public places, where, I know you often have tables at events. I know you use the Colo 8 TV station, but there seems to be a lot of reliance on the website, and the website is not easy to use, including, even to find the CMAC meetings, you know, the public meetings are not featured prominently on the front page. I can't even figure out how to navigate to them from the front page. I can only search for the CMAC to find the packet. And I only know to look for it because I'm on it. But just in general, you know, we've talked about things like putting up flyers on bulletin boards in public places such as libraries or grocery stores or community centers or just general gathering places. And I know that sounds tedious and potentially pointless, but I have done it as a volunteer for programs like a bicycle master plan in the town where I used to live. And, you know, I went around the neighborhood where I lived, which was heavily Spanish speaking, and I just distributed flyers. And I went to, you know, ethnic grocery stores and asked if I could put up a flyer in a language other than English. And there are people who can help do that. This doesn't have to fall on RTC, but I'm bringing it up again because I'd like it to just be on the list of things that RTC does, making use of the public domain a little more. And these are, like, for example, under 4.1 engagement, the list of things here is really formal. There are a lot of informal opportunities. And we've even talked about that here. Like there was the river study, and there are so many informal users of the river who may be interested in, you know, a survey on social media or be interested in a citizen science effort. There are just so many opportunities for people to participate less formally. And I'd like to see RTC kind of have not just a placeholder, but almost like setting an intention to take advantage of that so that it doesn't fall off and so that we don't have to talk about it over and over. If it's on the list, you'll be considering it automatically. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess, can you say a little bit more about informal opportunities? Kind of what would that look like? How could we, I mean, as you rightly pointed out, this is a high-level document, and it's really meant to like be a floor, not a ceiling. So it's the minimum that we would do, but it
Right.
certainly isn't. Sometimes we do way more. So I guess
So,
how would you,
like,
yeah.
how would I articulate that? So under 4.1 engagement, I would add a few more numbers after 14. I would add flyering. I would add amplifying messaging in partnership with local agencies such as the library, such as the Chamber of Commerce, such as local organizations that publish e-newsletters. For example, Reno Bike Project has a monthly e-newsletter. The library publishes a calendar of events and an e-newsletter regularly. I know Ann Silver from the Chamber of Commerce, when she was on this group, she used to offer that the chamber could amplify outreach and comment opportunities. So number 15 would be, you know, partner with local agencies and organizations to amplify opportunities for input, basically. And they don't just have to be opportunities, formal opportunities for comment. Number 16 would be make use of social media or web platforms other than the RTC website to reach users of the RTC system to collect information as appropriate for various initiatives. And the river initiative would be a great example of where it would be appropriate. So that's two ideas, and then that's 15 and 16. 17 could be, you know, make use of public spaces such as bulletin boards to reach a wide variety of audiences in multiple languages, potentially in partnership with volunteers. That's how I would phrase those three additions. Is that more clear?
Yes, thank you. No, those are fantastic suggestions. And, um, some of this, again, it's not captured in the public participation plan, and I will definitely try to get some of this in there. But I guess just for your knowledge, we do this, we do all of these things. I'm thinking particularly of the social media that's not on our platform. So recently, the public transit department had a very successful marketing campaign where they actually used an influencer. So they had a person who was doing marketing on our behalf, basically, to connect people that we possibly couldn't reach just through our own channels, or encourage people we couldn't reach through our own channels to try public transit. So these things are definitely happening, but I think having them in our toolbox makes sense. So let me take a look at that and see how we can incorporate it. And again, thank you for your suggestions. These are great.
Sure. And just for past context, when we have asked about these more specifically, I've asked about them, other people have asked, way back when Anne used to be on the committee, she was also a member of the library board, and it just always seemed like these items fell through the cracks, and understandably so. RTC staff are very busy. That's why I just want to see them on the list so they don't get
Absolutely.
forgotten. And
Absolutely.
I should have stated separately that it would be helpful to me if the website were easier to use.
And hopefully that will soon be the case. Again, we're working hard to make it. We know the challenges that we have currently with the website, and we're actively making changes to make it better. So, yeah, hopefully we'll
Okay,
get there.
thank you.
Hi, this is Damien. I had my hand up. I had something to add to that, if I may.
Sure, go ahead, Damien.
Yes. Hi. So, regarding flyers and participate in trying to garner participation, it's always been a concern of mine that the CMAC meetings have been a little bit hard to market. From what I've seen, it doesn't have to be that hard. For instance, the Zoom link is on the PDF, which is it's for the agenda PDF, which is hidden in a link to the CMAC meetings, which is not the most public-facing page, as was just stated. I thought it would be really interesting when I'm very sorry, I forgot your name already. What was her name? The lady that just spoke, Pana. Pana just said about like flyers and all that. I thought, well, there's space on the buses, above where people sit, where little flyers and everything are posted. That would be a great place to let people who use the bus to know that, let them, to inform them that the CMAC exists, and put a little QR code taking them to the web page that talks about the meetings. And I've always been concerned about the fact that the Zoom link is on the PDF for the agenda. I don't know why it's not put onto the actual page itself. I know that the link changes from meeting to meeting, but I don't understand why why does it have to be on the PDF, because it's such a weird long link in the first place, and it's not the most it's not the most intuitive place to look. So yeah, I was thinking buses, the bus stations, right there in the main terminal. There were plenty of places that flyers could be put there as well. So yeah, just some input on that.
Okay, thanks, Damien.
Mm-hmm. And also probably let them know that they have to call in by a certain time to notify ahead of time that they're going to be using the phone to make public comment. That, I mean, it's, and unfortunately, it's, I guess, a web-based world now. Weird for someone like me to be saying that, because I'm so hello, I'm like the one that has the huge microphone and all that, but people that don't have access to technology like that, they really need to be given a equal chance to be able to input. So like putting the phone number on the web page for the that kind of thing. Like all that information should be given a lot more freely so people can, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you for your comments, and I'll share in particular the stuff about the website since we're actively changing that now. So
Yeah.
we'll see what's possible with that.
Okay.
This is Suting. Could you just scroll back on your presentation for kind of like the next steps? I know it's in our packet, but it would be so easy for me to screenshot this right now. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, let me put my hand down. Oh, my hand is down, but yet I still see the hand icon on my thumbnail. That's weird. Let me see if I can. No, it's still there. It won't go away. Not sure what's up. Oh, now it's gone now. Okay.
Any other comments on this item? Well, thank you, Vanessa. Let's see. Does anyone have the agenda pulled up? I can listen. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, item 2, provide information, advice, and recommendations regarding the draft Central Sparks and Neighborhood Network Plan. Do we have a presentation on this today?
Yep, I'll take that one.
Okay.
I'll do my best to share my screen here. Okay, so Marquise Williams, Senior Transportation Planner with RTC, here to present today on the Central Sparks Neighborhood Network Plan. This is the second of 12 neighborhood network plans that we're planning to complete here in the next 6 years. And we are now at the draft plan stage. So I'll talk a little bit about it more later, but this one will be going to the board this month, and then again to the board for approval next month. So a little bit of background. The active transportation plan was published and approved by the RTC board in September of 2024, and it had an overarching goal of improving utilization of our active transportation network, so essentially improving biking and walking within the region. We broke that into 4 goals, so improve safety, expand mode share, maintain the system sustainably, and enhance the community. So to execute on this plan, we formed the Active Transportation Program, and that's where you get these neighborhood network plans. It's also where we use different metrics like the gap analysis, which is a sum or a cumulative metric of other metrics like the bike level of traffic stress and the pedestrian experience index, both of which are measures of how comfortable a bike facility or a sidewalk is for users. The Active Transportation Program also has a dedicated funding source. And we run all of our ideas and plans by our newly established Active Transportation Technical Advisory Committee. This committee is comprised of members from each jurisdiction in the region, as well as other governmental agencies like Northern Nevada Public Health and Washoe County School District. So a little bit about neighborhood network planning. So essentially the concept is that we've broken the region into 12 neighborhoods, pictured here on the left in the map. We're focusing on the Central Sparks neighborhood here. And the idea is that when folks take, trips by bike or trips on foot, typically they're shorter trips, 1 to 3 mile, 0 to 3 mile trips, and not long regional trips like North Valleys to Damani Ranch, for instance. So we wanted to focus on those trips to school, trips to the grocery store, trips to the library, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't just improving one corridor, but that instead we were improving the whole neighborhood network. So we've broken these plans into two parts. First, and most of what I'll be talking about today is the short-term quick build projects. These are low-cost, fast implementation, 1 to 2 year implementation timeline projects that we can get on the ground quickly. And then the next step in that is to do performance tracking. So we've partnered with UNR for this plan to do utilization counts before and after implementation, so that we can see whether our quick build projects are working, or if there's ways we can improve them, or whether they need to be removed and rethought completely. The second part of a neighborhood network plan is the long-term section, and those are more traditional active transportation projects, high dollar, longer implementation timeline. Those would be considered in the regional transportation plan. So a few examples of quick build projects. On the top, we have our neighborhood byway style projects, and on the bottom are some examples of protected bike lane projects. So starting in the top left, a curb extension reduces crossing distance for pedestrians. These are also kind of colloquially known as bulb outs. Similarly, the middle top picture is a pedestrian median island, and it has the same function of reducing crossing distance. And then on the top right is a slow street. So this is where we put signs in the middle of the street to help slow down traffic and kind of create obstacles for vehicles to calm the street. And then 3 types of potential barriers that we could use for our quick build protected bike lanes. In the bottom left, we have the 2 to 3 foot posts. Bottom center are candlesticks. These are similar to what you see on 5th Street in downtown Reno. And then on the bottom right, we have our armadillos. So these treatments are some that will be considered for the quick build projects. So a bit about the neighborhood network planning process. We start with existing conditions, and that's really our initial public outreach. This is where we want to basically know what the issues are, what's the situation today in the Central Sparks neighborhood. We ask the public, as well as our steering committee, comprised of local stakeholders, just for their insights on how to benefit the community with these projects. We also use those data metrics, like the gap analysis and bike level of traffic stress that I mentioned earlier. And that kind of gives us our existing conditions. From there, we go into scenario development. And so what we do is we put together 3 scenarios, which are kind of alternatives for different visions of the neighborhood. We take these versions, these alternatives, back to the steering committee, and we have a long 2-hour meeting and kind of hear the pros and cons of each plan and determine how we should move forward, which takes us to our final step. So that's the final scenario design. And this is kind of a long collaboration process between RTC and our consultant, as well as representatives from the city. So in this case, from City of Sparks. Using those insights gleaned from the steering committee and just working within our means and the means of the city, we work to develop that list of final neighborhood network recommendations. So quickly, I'll touch on the outreach. We had 3 in-person meetings for this neighborhood network plan. One was at Sparks High School, one was at the Marina, and the last was at the El Rancho Public Market. We also had an online survey map where we did get over 150 responses, so great turnout. And then finally, the steering committee that I've mentioned, comprised of members of Public Works, Police, Fire, Washoe County School District, and other local stakeholders. That's where we really get some key insights that help us make sure that we're right sizing and recommending improvements that work for the community. So Moving into our recommendations, we are coming forward with a recommended 16.3 miles of improved active transportation facilities. The majority of those are those neighborhood byways, so traffic calm streets. We're recommending 12.4 miles. And then 2.2 miles of protected or buffered bike lanes and 1.7 miles of other minor signage, striping, improvements. So think adding sharrows to an already calmed street, or adding signage to an existing shared use path. So on the right, each proposal or each proposed recommendation comes with a cut sheet, and these can be found in your CMAC packet. It's Appendix E of the Neighborhood Network Plan. And these include a map as well as a conceptual cross-section and a brief summary of kind of our plans and vision for that corridor. Those 10 corridor projects are included, like I mentioned, in Appendix E, but I've also included them here. So we have Sullivan Lane from Wedekind to Victorian, York and Wedekind Road between Sullivan and Goldie, 11th and 12th Street from Galt to Victorian Plaza, I Street from Pyramid Way to Prater Way, F&G Street from El Rancho to McCarran Boulevard, Greenbrae, and Station Drive from 4th Street to Prater, Howard and Goldie from Nichols to Spanish Springs Road, O'Callahan and Springland Drive from Howard to Vista, Lincoln from McCarran to Legends Bay, and Victorian from 16th to Pyramid. So moving on to the implementation process, this slide has a map of the proposed improvements on the left. But like I mentioned, we do have a dedicated funding source. So that's $5 million a year. We plan on doing 2 neighborhood network plans per year, which leaves us with about $2.5 million per neighborhood for improvements. RTC Engineering is leading the design efforts on this project. It's important to point out that our estimate of $2.5 million is a planning level, high level estimate. The engineering team is tasked with finding the actual costs. We try to be as in the ballpark as possible, but engineering is tasked with getting as many of the improvements on the ground while still being respectful of that $2.5 million budget. Our target implementation date, our timeframe, is summer of next year. With that, the next steps, we'll be presenting this to the board at the RTC or at the September RTC board meeting. Our public comment period has opened, so this meeting is one of the steps in that process. The draft plan is also posted at rtcwashoe.com/neighborhood. We'll be back at the RTC board in October for approval on consent. And then, like I mentioned, looking forward to implementation in summer of 2026. I wanted to include also that we recently selected the neighborhoods for neighborhood network plans 3 and 4. So those will be Sun Valley, Panther Valley, and Meadowood, Hidden Valley. And those are looking to kick off later this month. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Marquis. Looks like Damien has a question, and then I have 2 questions after them. Go ahead, Damien.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Hi. Yeah, this is Damien. So yeah, I wanted to mention a few things. Thanks for the presentation. Intersections have always been the biggest issue, even with the recently finished Audi Boulevard project. every intersection, the bike lanes, the paths, they all disappear. And that's a high dollar project. So I would really push the idea for not simply fixing up the length of between intersections, but also concentrate on creating protected intersections, even if it's just flexi post buffers. I can give you a really good example of a high dollar project that does exist, that has been around since I think the 90s, on Victorian Boulevard, which then goes up to Nichols Boulevard and crosses McCarran. The moment that you get to, okay, so the two terminus points of that project are very dangerous to get in and out of that protected, segregated bike path. Okay, it's a double, I don't know if anyone's ever been on it. It's a two-way bicycle path, a feats pad, a whatever you want to call it, a cycle track. But when you try to get on it from Pyramid, your only option is to use the crosswalk on the north side of the street. In other words, if you, let's say if you're heading east, you have to go across the crosswalk, and to get on the path, you have to enter and exit on your bike in a slip lane. It's the slip lane that if you're heading west on Victorian and then you want to go north on Pyramid, that's where the bike path begins. It's the most, it's like, what were they thinking? Oh, it probably wasn't within the scope of the project, I can imagine. When you get to the eastern terminus of that high dollar existing project, it's a roundabout right there next to Western Village. Again, since it's a bi-directional cycle track, the enter and exit is on the incorrect side of that roundabout. So you really the only option that you have to get in and out of the wonderfully made bike path is to get off your bike, dismount, and go across the sidewalk, then get back on your bike, and then wait for cars to, in the middle of the intersection, wait for cars to leave so that we can get. So yeah, when these new projects are being looked at, please consider the intersection as part of the scope of each quick build project. That if it's not being done for the high dollar projects, it's probably not going to be done for the quick build ones. Even here in Reno, a lot of problems. I did have a question about the Sullivan path. You said there was an existing shared use path on Sullivan, or was I misunderstanding that?
I believe that would be that's a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to say that if I did.
Okay, yeah, because there are no bike paths on Sullivan right now. It's just like, what? And the other thing too is, if you could go back to that map, the one that you showed that had the different colored lines, the green and blue and purple, is there that one right there? Wonderful map to start looking at, but there's not much information about what each project is on those things like that. Is there is there a place where people during this public comment period, a place where people can look at all of the details for these quick build projects?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. We currently have on the website the draft plan, but here in the next 24 hours, we're going to post a link to an interactive map. It's similar to the interactive map that we did for the original public outreach, so you can point and click and post comments, but it actually, to your first point, it identifies both corridors and intersection improvements that we're looking to implement, and it's a little less busy than this map, admittedly.
All right, thank you for that. And the last question, I don't know if it's a question or not, but I do see the dashed line on Victorian between where Victorian splits off from Prater near the. Do you see what I'm talking about? Between the blue and the purple lines where there's an existing bike path and existing bike lanes? Right there, exactly.
Correct.
I don't know if this is true, but I saw a post on Reddit a few weeks ago saying that they were thinking about closing off vehicular traffic in that area. Is that a rumor that's true? I guess I'm asking to confirm or deny the rumor, because I'm like, whoa, that's, first of all, it's already a 15 or whatever mile an hour area, and that has sharrows, which you know, most of the time they honk at me to go faster, even though, you know, they're honking at me so they can speed. Okay, that's why. Or they'll just jam around me if I get too close to the edge of the. So yeah, what are the plans for that little area there?
Yeah, so I'm obviously that's a City of Sparks initiative. So they had a pilot project at the beginning of the summer, I think back in May, where they closed down Victorian to foot traffic. That was the original plan was for it to be closed until October. After Hot August Nights, I think they made the decision to reopen it to vehicle traffic and just close it on event days, like the recent rib cook-off. So our project there will be, that's one of those minor signage and striping projects. So we just want to further enhance and emphasize the fact that that's a shared
use
street.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
our project is signage and striping there.
Yeah, and at the eastern terminus of that dashed line area is the part that's very difficult to try to get onto the existing purple line. That's right there at Pyramid. That's what I was talking about earlier. So that's why I was curious about that. Yeah, I've always been on my maps. I've always kind of been playing with that area. It's like, it's low speed, great for Charos, but how do you connect up the existing bike path east of that? And I thought, well, maybe we do need to have a shared use path that is currently used as a sidewalk space, even though it's low speed traffic, just that way there's like an actual connector that goes across Pyramid. But yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you for your help, or thank you for your presentation.
Sure. Thanks for your questions. Any other questions or comments? Actually, real quick, I'll let you know, Damien, that there is a concept in traffic engineering right now called "Don't Give Up at the Intersection," and it's basically emphasizing exactly what your first comment was discussing. Yes. So there are, I mean, you know, there are bad intersections,
yes.
and
yes.
you know, project extents were kind of maybe too definitive at a time. And so with that Pyramid project, or with that Victorian project, Pyramid is an NDOT road, or it's within the NDOT sphere of influence, which makes it, you know, all the more difficult. But it is something that, you know, our traffic designers repeat regularly, is don't give up at the intersection. It's something that we're trying to remedy with this project.
Yeah, the way I put it is capitalize and punctuate your sentences. In other words, it's like you have a great sentence, good ideas, but if the beginning and the end isn't finished at those intersections, it's like your thought is incomplete. So yeah,
You like that?
Yeah, intersections are the place where people get killed the most. It's not so much the, you know, not being able to share the road as much as it is trying to get across the street. All right. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Damien, is that all your questions today?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
No problem. And then Marquis, I just had two questions. So my first question is related to the schedule for Sparks. So it looks like you're getting approvals now, and your target implementation is summer of 2026. So is that implementation like everything finished by summer 2026?
So we're a weather-dependent town, four-season town, obviously.
Yeah.
And so what I understand from engineers and builders is that, you know, you have to have the pavement at a certain temperature in order to stick a lot of these paint colors and barriers and things like that. So I know that we're planning to start construction in May, or whenever, but it's really weather dependent, like all of our RTC projects.
Gotcha.
With that in mind, these are quick builds, so this is the first time we're doing a large scale project like this one. So we haven't really worked out the details on how the phasing will work or how the rollout will work. But it should be a fairly fast implementation.
Okay. Okay. And then for the remaining projects, are you going to stagger the construction phases for them, or are they going to be basically like back to back to back, or are they going to be parallel at the same time?
Do you mean for these recommended projects?
Yeah, exactly. So it looks like you're doing approvals like kind of 2 neighborhoods at a time and doing budget approvals 2 neighborhoods at a time. Is the implementation also going to be like serial, like one after the other, or are you going to try and just kind of parallelize and just kind of do whatever makes sense scheduling?
Got it. Yeah, from an engineering perspective, this is one project. So the Central Reno plan and the Central Sparks plan are being approached as one project, as you know, they call it Active Transportation Program 2601. So with that in mind, like I said, to your last question, it's weather dependent and kind of just situationally dependent, but they will be approached as one implementation project.
Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good news. And then as far as the $2.5 million budget for each neighborhood, I know the neighborhoods are all like kind of very different sizes, like Cold Springs versus the neighborhood 6, kind of like the Audi area. I know is like very different. So
Absolutely.
so does that budget just kind of like take into account the relative density of the areas? Or do you estimate that the budgets might get mixed around a little bit to maybe provide more infrastructure in Spanish Springs than in the Midtown area, for example?
That's a good question. I think when we, as part of the active transportation planning process, when we developed this map of 12 neighborhoods, the idea was that the denser neighborhoods are going to have more opportunities for improvements. That's just the nature of being on a grid system. You have more intersections, more people, more activity. So there's just more opportunity for these projects. Out in North Valleys, there are lots of roads, but the active transportation utilization might be lower, or it might also be more focused. And so we can really focus on single corridors instead of, as, well, how should I put that? As much as the network allows, there isn't as much of a grid system up there. So I think a lot of our investment will have to be on, large scale roads as opposed to the kind of networking we're doing in Midtown and Central Sparks. So with that in mind, I think the size of the neighborhoods was kind of meant to encompass a $2.5 million budget with that
Gotcha. Okay.
neighborhood or that density. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does. It does. So in that case, like the size that you drew the boundaries kind of takes into account the relative network and density, of that budget. Okay, that makes sense. So that makes sense. And then my last question related to the budget is, do you think that $2.5 million is plenty to finish the project? Do you think that you're kind of cutting it close? What kind of like percentage buffer do you kind of estimate you're giving yourself here? Just because $2.5 million isn't that much, considering what RTC spends to add a lane to 395 is like 300 something million dollars, I don't think that the $2.5 million budget is really that large. I think it's actually quite modest. So could you speak on that budget choice for a little bit?
Yeah, I think this is a first of its kind initiative. Well, really, it's similar to the Biggest Little Bike Network project, on Fifth Street and Virginia in downtown. So that was kind of our first quick build project. This is the first deployment in the active transportation program interpretation. So we're really trying to start small and be strategic with the budget that we've been allocated. recognizing that we're not going to be able to cover everything. You know, we you know, can work within our means, but, you know, like I say on the recommendations slide, we're still getting 16.3 miles worth of coverage for this neighborhood, along with, I think it was 13.3 in the central Reno neighborhood. So we're getting a decent amount of coverage. And then I'll add to that with our data collection and our performance tracking, we're really setting ourselves up to build that case. If we really see that there's a real demand for this, if this is what the region has been waiting for, we'll be able to tell that story with the data that we're collecting. I'd say in the meantime, our neighborhood network plans are composed, or these recommendations are composed with that 2.5 million budget in mind. So with that in mind, we're quite optimistic that we can install or we can implement a good majority of what we're setting out to here.
Okay, very good. That's great to hear, and I do think that it is kind of you know, unique in its scope and its breadth. And honestly, I'm very excited to see it. I think it's exactly kind of what, you know, this town needs to really do that last mile sort of transportation. Thank you.
Sure.
And then Damien, you have another question?
Real quick, something came up when I was thinking about this. Yeah. It's great that these kind of projects are going on. However, I am concerned about how whenever something comes up as part of being a improvement for bike infrastructure, that the typical the feeling that I get is that the typical administration view of it is, well, that's a bike project thing. That's not a normal street project. And you could tell me if I'm wrong on that, but with simple, let's say, restriping projects, I can give you an example right here in Reno. California Street was recently re-asphalted and repaved. And then there's this very confusing intersection. Not confusing to me, confusing for the drivers, because as you approach Virginia Street, and let's say if you're going eastbound on California, you approach Virginia Street. You have, so California terminates at Virginia. You have 3 options. There should only be 2 options, 3 options. You have option to turn left outside the bike lane, option to turn right outside of the bike lane. In other words, you have to merge into car traffic, or you have a bike lane that leads forward to nowhere. That would have been a perfect place to make a bike box, because that is a place where bikes have to merge into traffic. You have the bikes merge into traffic before you hit the terminus, before you hit the intersection. And this was freshly striped, say like a couple of months ago. And I'm always worried. I guess I'm paranoid. Is like people are going to be like, whoa, how the hell are you not using the bike lane? It's because the moment you get to Virginia, you're in a shorroad area. You have to merge. I constantly see bikes trying to push over as close to the side of the street as possible when it was designed by RTC to have mixed traffic use one lane. So whenever I see these small city-maintained striping projects happen, which are not the purview of RTC, but it is an engineering issue that needs to kind of be standardized across all different, I mean, it's engineering, right? Engineering should be the same no matter what agency you're with. So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the active transportation plan and all that, I often think, are these ideas being so separated as like, this is a new thing, this is an initiative that we've never done before? Why isn't it that the engineering teams for each different jurisdiction and agency, City of Sparks, City of Reno and all that, don't implement these active transportation plan ideas into the books, so that way when they do something as simple as restriping, that they don't look at the bigger picture and say, well, this didn't work before, let's make it better and let's make it part of this project that we're doing. And I'm trying to figure out a way how to get that integrated. I mean, it would not have cost any more money for that to happen at that one intersection, just as an example. Yeah, so it's a frustration, and I guess more like a, how do we do this? How can we get the different agencies to communicate to each other and update the engineering standard guidelines for each city, so that way all three agencies are on the same page with each other, and that way they could be implementing things without having to resort to grants and extra money that isn't already allocated. You know, that kind of thing always frustrates me. Anyway, so I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but it's kind of both. But thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. I think there's a lot of momentum in that same direction. So I think here in the next few years, I think this neighborhood network, I'm very biased, but I think this neighborhood network planning process will be a great step for the region, for bikeability in the region. So it's going to be a slow adoption or adaptation and paradigm shift, but I think the momentum is in that direction.
Marquis, can you hear me?
Hi, Juan. Yeah, we can hear you.
It's me, Juan Martinez. I have a question. On this third committee, do you have anybody that's disabled on that committee? And the reason why I'm asking is because, you know, different disabilities, they need different needs.
Absolutely. We did not have a member of the disabled community on these steering committees. That being said, you know, we have 10 more neighborhood network plans in the works. So I'll make sure to be in contact with you and with other advocates for the disabled community when we form those committees.
Okay. And I do have another question. The bike trail that you were speaking of earlier, is it similar to the one in front or on the over there in front of the Western Village? I think yeah, because it's actually across the street from the Western Village. There's a bus stop there where you have to get off the sidewalk, cross the bike lane, get to a curb that has pillars every few feet, and that's where the bus stops. A person on a wheelchair cannot get off or on. Yeah, if it's snowing especially. Yeah.
I've wondered about that myself. I've passed by it before on my bike.
And that bike lane is very wide. I mean, what if a blind person walks by to cross and gets nailed by a bicyclist? Yeah.
Floating intersection or a floating bus stop would be good there.
Yeah, so that's exactly where I was going. This is Marquise. Yeah, we are exploring floating bus stops on our biggest little bike network project in downtown. I guess I would first say, yeah, I think that I agree that the stop by Western Village is inadequate. But these floating bus stops are a new concept to the region. And I think if they're successful in downtown, we can definitely explore ways to implement them in other places like where you're referring to. Thank you for those comments.
Hi, this is Sue Ting. I know this isn't about Sparks, but Damien talked about my favorite intersection to talk about. And I'm going to just ask you because I've asked other people and they promised it would be easy, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't been done. There's great separated bike lane on Virginia going north, and it's just getting from California to it. And it's like this weird little spot where that bike lane ends just where Damien was talking about. And if you turn left to go on Virginia, it's a weird shared road and just to get to the part right at Liberty. Do you know where I mean?
Yeah, where we get where there's a parking or a protected lane.
Yeah, and then it's just as hard because you like go into this shared lane and then you have to like be in the middle of cars going straight and cars turning right onto Liberty. And it's so close. It's like right there. It's so close. And just connecting those, even if it's right, like I know green pavement doesn't it doesn't, it may not be enough, but even that would help, right? Like just to connect what you have on California to Virginia at Liberty. Like it's just this weird little spot where you kind of like have to figure stuff out, and then you can get to hop back into better infrastructure. So I don't know who I need to tell, or if you're gonna be my hero, Marquise, but that little section would be so good.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's in front of the
that makes
fountain.
sense. Yeah, I know that we have projects crossing Virginia Street close to that intersection. I don't believe that we'll actually be touching Virginia Street with this implementation. That's not to say that with our Active Transportation Technical Advisory Committee and with the other meetings that we can't bring that intersection up. But I don't want to get your hopes up for that intersection for this
I mean,
effort.
I would tell you who told me it'd be really easy, but I don't think he's here anymore. So thank you.
Michael, I see your hand up.
You're slightly off topic to Sparks, but since Suting kind of opened the door, kind of a process thing. I know I saw it on the Central Reno plan. I think I saw it in the Sparks plan. There's discussion of how there was a walking focus group, and the pictures of this group are that they're large groups, 10 to 15 people, all wearing high-vis vests, and making commentary on what this group has identified while doing their walking tour around town. And first thing that I immediately think of when seeing that is this is not the experience that 99.9% of pedestrians are having. We would there's a lot of areas that are probably a lot more dangerous than what they're perceiving, since drivers are going to notice a group of 10 people all in high-vis vests that they might not notice so 1, 2, or 3 people just in ordinary street clothes. And it would be, I know I'd kind of appreciate, and probably most of the people here would also, if these groups were actually try to more closely mimic what the everyday experience is for the people who are trying to get around town, walking or biking, and not the not the I kind of want to say theme park experience of for what happens when you go out of your way to draw attention to the fact that you're out here, which most of us aren't doing.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. I agree that when you're dressed like a traffic cone, you're going to be treated like a traffic cone. So it's an interesting balance, the safety, because we're working, so we want to be safe at work, and we have just company requirements. But it's important to know what the real lived experience is. That's where we lean on groups like this, and that comment map that we have, where you can point and really tell us where the issues are. Those help so that when we go out there, we can see, and we can, we're not almost getting hit. But if somebody's told us that they feel really unsafe, or they've had unsafe experiences at a certain intersection, we can at least see maybe why the configuration led to those near misses. We also, our data collection program with LiDAR is able to see all of that stuff. So we can track near misses, we can track crashes, we can get time of day, weather conditions, all of that fun stuff that kind of helps paint the full picture better than we can when we're out there for 10 minutes. So it's not a great solution, but I think it's just kind of the reality of trying to do this while we're on the job.
And I can definitely appreciate there does need to be balance between keeping everyone safe and trying to make it as authentic of an experience as possible. And I mean, I understand it's not easy. It's just a appreciate anything that can be done to where account for kind of that bias of, like you said, if you're dressed like a traffic cone, you'll be treated like a traffic cone.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas of how we can represent the lived experience or recreate it better or replicate it, feel free to let me know. I'm always open to improving this process.
Yeah, I'll put some thought into that. I mean, I don't have anything right off the top of my head. I mean, other than literally just telling them, "Hey, have a day to walk around town," but I understand that that's probably not the most feasible of solution.
Sure.
Hey, Sue, I posted something in the chat for you.
Nice. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Marquise, just even like carrying grocery bags and walking with strollers, like those kinds of things. Like I understand the visibility, but I think just kind of doing what people do when they're out using these roads, whether that's, getting to work or trying to buy groceries, or whatever that is. I think that might help bridge that gap a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that comment. Well, thank you all for a productive conversation. This was helpful feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
I know we're running low on time. Are we good to move on to 5.3?
Yeah, I don't see any other questions. And I think we are kind of running low on time. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on to 5.3. This is approve the election of a chair and vice chair to serve from September 3rd, 2025 until June 30th, 2026, consistent with Section 9C of the Statement of Purpose and Procedures. So this has possible action. Marquis, do you have the election results for the chair and vice chair?
So we have not had a quorum in order to do this election. So I think that's what the item would be now. A couple months ago, we did a call for nominations on for anyone interested in serving as chair or vice chair. We got 2, and they're familiar faces. Ryan volunteered first to be chair. He's the current vice chair, and he graciously volunteered to be chair, and Su Ting volunteered to be vice chair. So I guess what we would do is hold a vote for the chair position, which I will lead, and then the chair can then lead the election for the vice chair. I think that process makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So with that in mind, does anyone else want to nominate? I think we're doing self-nominations for this body. So would anyone else like to volunteer to be chair?
I wish I could. I just cannot guarantee I would be here every month. But thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So seeing no nominations or no further nominations, let's have a vote. So all those in favor of Ryan serving as the chair of the CMAC until the June or the end of the June meeting, I guess signify by saying aye.
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 I guess it's a vote, so there's no opposition. So with that, Ryan, thank you for volunteering and thank you for taking over this group as chair. So
Of
I'll let you
course.
lead the next vote.
Of course. Sorry, who were the nominees again for vice chair?
It's just Suting,
Okay.
unless there's any other nominations now.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Pana if they're interested.
Okay, I'll accept the nomination.
Excellent. I will happily withdraw. I'm so happy for you. That's wonderful.
Okay.
All right. Well, that makes it easy. Thanks, Sue. All right. Do we have any further nominations?
Well, I can volunteer Michael to do it, but I'm just kidding. Okay. Pana, I think you'll do great.
And I mean, yeah, I definitely think Pana would do a better job than I would. So, she already has my vote, even if I am nominated.
Okay, great. Okay, in that case, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor of Pana being vice chair of the CMAC until the
Aye.
June meeting of next year, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, and that's a vote, yeah, so there's not going to be an opposing, majority. Okay, great. Congratulations, Pana. And thank you, Marquis.
Great, thank you both.
Golf clap.
This is exciting. Yeah, we can do some snaps or claps.
Finger snaps, yeah. All right, and then that concludes our section 5. So section 6, we have RTC staff announcements.
No staff announcements from me. Vanessa, any announcements?
None from me, thank you.
Okay, and then moving on to comment. We have section 7. We have about 7 minutes before adjournment for any further public comment, if anybody has one today.
Hi, this is Dora Martinez. I'll make it quick. Can I go? Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So it's a question to Vanessa Laser about the website accessibility and your map that you all say we click on a mouse. Blind people don't use mouses. We use arrows, and your map is not accessible. So I don't know who does the testing for you all as a person who is blind and uses a computer, or i.e. iPhones and Android. But we go all over the city and Sparks, and we really want to be part of the solution by providing some of your some of the sidewalks and bike trails that are not accessible. If it's not accessible to a blind person, it's not going to be accessible to an elderly person or anybody that has a stroller. I'm blind. I have a granddaughter. We push a stroller and a guide dog. Imagine that. And I bet you none of you guys, because we had an engineer, we slapped on a shades on his head, on his face, and we walked across Baccarin, and he was freaking out. And I do this on a normal basis, which is why we have the audible pedestrian signal lights all over this town, because we made our point across. So we urge you, when you guys have STIR committee, you guys have one who is blind here in the committee. You don't have to go far to look for a citizen that can bring that attribute to the table. And it's better to have accessibility from the very beginning than as an afterthought. And it also saves city money. So we would urge you to include people with disability in your STIR committee. And I don't know who to talk to regarding your website, because I'm intending on putting my comment in and participating in the public comment. So offline, would somebody please email me on who I can talk to regarding your inaccessible map on your inaccessible RTC Washoe County website? Thank you.
Hi, Dora, this is Vanessa. Thank you for your comment. Can you tell me which map um,
The one that Mark
you're
was talking about
describing?
on his thing.
The interactive map for the Sparks plan?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we'll get back to you. Thank you for your comment.
Sure. And also for you guys' website accessibility that you're doing with your 3Ps, I'm not sure what WCAG are you using. Is it going to be 2.0? Because 2.0 is old. It needs to be 2.1 or 2. So I'm sure you guys can reach out to Scott Youngs because I've been passing his information to Marky and Joshua, your public info guy, and I don't know what's going on with that, but I'll leave it at that. And thank you, Vanessa, for your hard work. I appreciate your help in everything. And I love your app that you sent it to me and Juan when we went to the river walk, which we got lost, but we found our way back. Thank you. Thank you.
You were right, Damien. It was not accessible.
Thank you so much. Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your comment.
All right, Damien, it looks like we have 3 minutes, if you can
Yeah.
fit it in that time.
Very
Okay.
quickly. Dorley and Juan, I would love to walk with you guys along your path so I can understand from your viewpoint what's going on. Just as a personal, I mean, you know how I am, right? With planning and all that. I really want to understand the experience so that way I can start thinking about these things when I make my plans. Question for RTC. Could you describe to me currently, like right now, I'm on rtcwashoe.com. How do I navigate to that map without using the search icon?
So that map is not yet available on the website. It'll be available, tomorrow. We have the link. We just need to update the website.
Right.
The way to do it will be to, I can walk you through it. Under planning, you click regional planning, and then the neighborhood network button, which will take you to a list of the neighborhoods, and you can click that central Sparks link.
Got it.
And there will be a link to the map right there.
Got it. Okay. And I think this runs on WordPress, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right. I'm just looking at this. Okay, thank you. But yeah, Dorley and Juan, if you want to connect up somehow after this, I would love, I'm serious, I would love to walk with you both and find out more about what things are like from your perspective. It's something that I should be considering myself when I make my plans. So I don't know how we can connect up, but we're on stream right now, so you probably want to connect with me. Do you have my email address from the previous correspondence from like months ago? I can give you my email address or whatever. I'll put it right here in the chat.
I don't know if this is going to be after the OML, but I do have your contact information. I'm Dora the Explorer. I got everyone's.
Just a quick aside on that before we run out of time. Damien and Juan, would you guys like to, Damien, would you be able to build a report about what you find?
Sure. In fact, I was going to suggest...
And make a presentation maybe for this meeting?
I could make a video vlog, about this and show what things are like. Yeah, I would love to do something like that. Absolutely.
I think that'd be very helpful. I think that'd be good for us to all communicate, that experience out to the wider world in like a nice, successful format.
Totally.
Let's do it when it's snowing. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, that could be the follow-up video for sure.
Okay, thank you guys.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you two please stay in contact and just CC me as well. I'd like to stay, involved. Maybe I might be able to join up. I have kind of a busy summer. But anyways, thank you everybody so much.
Thank you.
I just posted my email in the chat.
Okay, got it.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.